Hello, everybody. Hope everybody can hear me. We'll get started here as everybody starts to join. Looks like we got a good group of people here. I'm going to go ahead and get started since we're a couple minutes past, and then we'll get rocking and rolling. I'm going to share my screen in a minute. And today, what we're talking about, in case anyone wasn't sure, we're talking about how to get more business from your listings, specifically as many as possible. I think we talked about three, but I would like you to have more. And so today, what I'm going to talk about is anything that helps you get more business from any listing that you have. And we're going to go fast. I have a lot of slides. And what I'll do is I will leave a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A. Let me get my screen up here, and then we are going to get started. And hopefully you can see this. Um, we will get going. All right. So today I am Frank Hereda. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Tom Ferry is the number one real estate coach in the world, has been ranked the number one real estate coach in the world for many, many years. Uh, Again, I'm Frank Hereda. I live here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm on the East Coast. And I have been in this industry. I really should change that, but I've been in the industry for now 26 years. So a long time in the building and real estate space. I coach for Tom. I've been coaching for him for a little over 6 years, I think. I've been speaking for him for quite a while. My wife and I have a brokerage here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We do real estate. We do oceanfront short-term rental. We do building and renovations. So we're pretty busy. And, I coach probably at any one time, roughly around 50 people when it comes to coaching. So I've got a full plate, and I'm really excited to share with you what is going on with them and what we're teaching everybody in the ecosystem so that you can have a better business and get more business this year before the end of the year. So, the listing multiplier. Turn one listing into three or more. And that is the goal of the conversation today. So, I can't really see many of you, but I'm hoping that all of you are focused on leveraging your business. It's probably the number one piece of the business that I see most agents failing at. Everybody's focused on, okay, how do I get business? That's usually the part that they're most obsessed with. And what I find is that everybody forgets that once they get the business, it doesn't stop there, right? And so what we see is most agents treating this as a finish line when they get a listing. But the top producers treat it as a starting line, a single listing marketed on a timeline instead of dumped on the MLS, because the engine that produces your next two or three with no new budget and no new lead source. So that's what we're focused on today. Let me see what is the deal with this. Why is this not working? Gotta love technology. Technical difficulty. Let me see here. Hmm. There we go. Why is that? Oh, it just got stuck, it looks like. Okay. So, all right. Gotta love computers. So, all right. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about pre-market before it's even live. So 3 campaigns that build buzz and surface buyers before the MLS or the setup. We're going to talk about the mega open house, the event that creates urgency and puts you in front of future sellers, which is the centerpiece. And I hope all of you do open houses. There are many ways to get listings, and we talk about just leads in general here at the Tom Ferry ecosystem. But, open houses is a staple. And so we're going to go into that. The neighbor follow-up system. There's 3 calls that turn one sale into the next listing. And that conversation, in my opinion, I have taught prospecting boot camp for Tom. I have taught prospecting in general. And I am telling you, after doing it for years, that is the best script we have going. I love it. I can't wait to share it with you because I think it's really going to help your business. Then we have what we call show the sweat, marketing the close so it wins your next seller. And then, of course, what presentation would I not include video? Turning one listing into years of searchable market presence. That's the amplifier. And then execution starts now. So let's keep going. Market share. Okay, so why does this matter now? Whoever controls the listings controls the market. I'm sure you've heard that. The signs, the calls, the neighborhood conversations. If you control the listings list to last, right? I'm sure some of you have heard that in the past. And that's kind of the point here. But every home that sells creates two or three more sales in the same neighborhood, same street, same subdivision. That's the point. And it compounds, right? So it's 6 or 7 listings a year, each producing one or two more. That quietly doubles your pipeline. And that is what we're after. It is much easier. It's kind of like I always give the example with my clients that I coach, the example of having a job. It is much easier to get a new job when you currently have a job. But when you don't, it's so much tougher. And I kind of relate it the same way when you have a listing. If you have a listing, it's much easier to get a listing with proof that, hey, I've got these listings, here's how I do it, than if you don't have any. So use that as your leverage to get more business. And it's not just listings, by the way, it's buyers too. But you should be using the activity that you currently have to get more business. And that's what we're going to talk about. But it's back to fundamentals, right? The basics that built listing businesses got lazy when homes sold in 3 days, and the market rewards them again. So I believe that's part of what's going on now. People have gotten lazy. It's so funny. I had somebody the other day say, oh my gosh, it's taking forever to sell a home. And I said, okay, what is the average days on market? And they said 4 weeks. I was like, that is a gift. Now, some markets are a little longer than that. Some markets they have much more inventory depending on the product. I'm here in a vacation market, second home market. So if you're looking at like an oceanfront condo, we might have a year's worth of one bedroom oceanfront condos. But then you get off into single family people that live here and you're talking 90 days, right? And some sell in 7, which is unbelievable. But 90 days still, I don't think is bad. So you have to put it in perspective. Okay. But the agent who has the most conversations wins. This will never change. We've been saying this since the beginning of time. Every step in this system manufactures another conversation, and that's the goal. If you aren't talking to people, you're not going to get any business. So no matter if we're talking social media, farming, open houses, the goal is everything you do, you have to have a conversation. You're going to have to eventually have a conversation, and that is how you build trust with people, and then they decide whether they want to do business with you. But they have to be able to have a conversation with you for them to decide that. All right. So there's 2 kinds of listing marketing. You have the appease the seller exposure marketing. So you have Zillow views, video views. That promotes the listing and mostly exists to reassure the seller. But then you have the build the brand multiplier marketing. So that's using the listing to position you as the market expert and generate the next listing. And so what we want to do is utilize the opportunities we have because we have this listing. So how are we going to use that to position ourselves as a market expert? Well, price sets the floor, marketing sets the ceiling, but neither grows your pipeline by itself. Okay. So we want to start early. And the marketing of a home starts the day you book the appointment, not the day it hits the MLS. So we're going to talk about that. So pre-market before it's even listed, okay? Before you sign, the richest, most ignored window in the entire listing. So from the day the agreement is signed to the day it goes live, you have a sequence of moments to build buzz and pull future sellers out of hiding. And each one is a marketing campaign that runs before a single buyer can see the home on a portal. All right. So, here we go again. Every time I put that up there, why does that do that? It's hung up. We'll give it a second. Know what's up with my Mac keyboard here. Let's see. Huh. There we go. That is so weird. I don't know why it keeps doing that. All right. So let's talk about the pre-appointment email. By the way, I want to make an announcement here real quick. Everything in these slides I'm going to give you at the end. So you're going to be able to take all of this and use it. At the end, I'll have a QR code. I'll also email my slides at the end so that you guys can get them, but there'll be a QR code that you can scan at the end on the last slide so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so the pre-appointment email. So you're going to send this to your database hours before the listing appointment, before you even have the listing. And you're going to open with what we call a pattern interrupt and the subject line that breaks the new listing habit people ignore, because everybody's sending emails that say, hey, new listing, new listing. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get what we call the pattern interrupt and make them just not see that same language again. We want to do something different. So you could frame it as an appointment, not a listing. So you could frame it as like, if they list, this one's going to get attention. I put AI question mark here. I added this because, look, if you're not using AI, I would love to talk about AI, but we're not going to get into that today. But if you're not using AI, I would implore you to get comfortable using AI. Claude or ChatGPT, both if you feel like you can do it. But use AI to come up with some great attention getter lines. This is just an example, but you could use, if they list, this one's going to get attention. This is one we've used before. And then it positions you as busy and in demand and surfaces 3 to 5 buyers you walk into the appointment already holding. So if you send this out to your database and then all of a sudden 3 to 5 people send back like, oh my gosh, yes, this is interesting. I think I'm interested, or I have somebody I know that might be interested. You can send it to agents, you could send it to your database. But if you go on that appointment in that listing presentation and you tell them, hey, I've got 3 people already interested, that is huge, because now you walk into the listing appointment, and if you're up against some other agents, they haven't done this. They don't have anybody ready to go. You have proof. You could show it. You could say, hey, look, I've got 3 people already. I just reached out to my small database, which we all know is not small. Okay, so the pre-appointment email looks something like this. So as agents, we're not allowed to publicly promote a listing until 24 hours before it goes live. But this isn't a listing, it's an appointment. I'm meeting with a homeowner today who's been thinking about selling, and if they decide to list, this home is going to get a lot of attention. I'll circle back with an update later today. Wish me luck, and if you want first look at something like this, just reply me. Now, you can change what they reply with, and you can change this language, but it should be something like this, right? I used to talk about somebody who used to do an Instagram reel, and they would take the Instagram reel and say, it would be a map behind them. And they would say, I'm going on a listing presentation in this area, 3-bed, 2-bath. If you have somebody that you think might be interested, this one's going to go crazy. Like that would be the kind of thing you would want to do. So you could apply this to social, and then you could also send this email. Okay. Now, the post-appointment email. So far, we've already talked about one, the pre-appointment email. Now we're talking post-appointment email. So, curiosity. You want to send it right after the appointment to the same list. And the subject line could be something like, I was wrong. And what you're trying to do is set anticipation, tease the timeline, going live on blank date. I can share details on whatever date that is. And then you also have the option to have some restraints. Still no address, no price, no confirmation it's even listing, and you're building the buyer list, right? People are saying, oh my gosh, if you get it, fine, here, I'm interested. And conversations first. So 2 campaigns and dozens of conversations have now run, and the home still isn't on the MLS. So the goal here is 2 emails we're sending out. It's not even on the MLS. You're getting people engaged. You're getting people to raise their hand, and you've helped yourself out to hopefully try and get this listing with the seller. And I would rather go with you all day long. By the way, if you want another leg to stand on and say, hey, this is why you should choose me, it's a little bonus tip, have a YouTube channel. Have social so you can show them your social channels. Hey, look, I do posts all the time. I have a YouTube channel. I command presence. I put content out constantly. That's just a little tip to help you get your listing. All right. Post-appointment email could look something like this. I was wrong is the subject line. The house looks even better in person. Forget what I said about getting some attention. This one might break the internet. We're targeting to go live on blank, which means I can officially share the details on blank date. Want me to text you so you don't miss the first look? Just reply and I'll add you to the early list. So that's a simple example of a post-appointment email. This could go to your database. It should go to your database. And this is going to attract a lot of attention. You don't need a ton of people. You just need one right person. Okay. So remember that. We're just trying to generate more activity, buyers and sellers from the listing. So far, we've got these two emails. And you could do social content as well. So forward to a friend. This is another opportunity. So peak window. You want to send this in 24 to 72 hours before launch. Okay. The window where the buzz peaks. Then the phrase might be forward to a friend, and it puts people in a sharing mindset. Okay. And then you want to create exclusivity access. Telling them they're the one of a few with early access raises the value of what they hold. So we're trying to create some scarcity and make them be like, oh my gosh, I'm in the know and not many people are. And that's really what the goal here is. And then you have a referral prompt. So you probably know someone looking for exactly this home. Okay. And that's the ask. So this is a separate thing that you're doing. So you have your database, and then you're sending this out and saying, forward it to a friend. This is kind of like some of my clients do like client appreciation events, or they'll just do a special event for just people who tend to refer them a lot of business, and they'll have them bring somebody that they know with them so that they can grow their network. But this is kind of that same thing. So this is 3 now. All right. This is the forward to a friend email. So you can take a screenshot of this. Again, I'm going to share the slides with you. The subject is you've got early access, forward this to a friend. So it's got that urgency in it. You're basically telling them that they're one of the few, but you're telling them in 24 hours, our newest listing goes live everywhere. But right now, you're one of just a few people with early access to it. It's the kind of home the other houses talk about behind their backs. I know it might be the wrong time for you to make a move, but you probably have a friend or family member who's been looking for exactly this. Here's my cell number. Have them call me directly, and I'll give them all the details before it hits the market. So this is another email that you're sending out. Now, let's take a step back. Is this a lot more work than what we would normally do? Absolutely it is. Okay? Absolutely it is. But is this worth it when you get a deal? Absolutely. Right? Because if you didn't do this, then you wouldn't have all this extra business. So you're going to have to make sure that they see you so that you can get this extra business. So we're talking about the pre-appointment email, post-appointment email, and forward to a friend email within 24 hours of going live. All 3 of these emails are going to get you business. And in my opinion, a reel or something on social like that, that's basically the same as the pre or post appointment, would be worth doing. Okay. Now we're talking about the pre-market engine. Day 1, the minute the agreement is signed, pre-marketing begins, not the minute it's live. And we're going to talk about that. You want to push coming soon to everyone you're legally allowed to tell. Database, brokerage, individual buyers. Warm the neighbors. Mail or drop a friendly, non-salesy letter to the 200 surrounding homes. Now, you can do this with a letter. I'm going to talk to you about a script here in a minute that's going to allow you to contact everybody. But sending a letter to 200 people is just another contact. The letter does double duty. It markets the home and it warms 200 future sellers. Okay. This is the neighbor coming soon letter. Okay. Something like this doesn't have to be exact, but this is an example. I'm excited to share that I'll soon be listing a home right here in whatever the neighborhood is. Over the next few weeks, I'll keep you posted on how it goes, including what it ultimately sells for. And I'd love to invite you to a special neighborhood open house before it hits the market. If you've ever been curious what your own home is worth in today's market, just reply or text me at this number, and I'll put together a no obligation estimate. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Guys, this stuff works. This works. I am not showing you stuff that doesn't work. This works. So if you sit there and you go, man, I really wish I could get more deals, this is your answer. We have a lot of stuff that we recommend our clients do. We have 100K in 100 days that helps you make $100,000 in 100 days. That's all about working your database. This is specifically for leveraging listings. So I would take this and I would apply it. And we're going to talk about what your next steps are at the end so that you can make sure you're successful. All right. So this is just an AI tool tie-in that I wanted to put on here. So if you're not using AI, I recommend ChatGPT and Claude. You can draft all three of these emails and the neighborhood letter in your voice. You edit, you send. And I'll give you some examples of programs that you can do that with. But you want it to be in your voice. You want it to be your style. So Revy is for our coaching clients. If you are in a current coaching client, then you have access to that. But it's real estate specific copy and CRM integrated campaigns. Canva is good to use. There's lots of AI tools out there that are just as good or better than Canva. You can do graphics. Your CRM, you can load the database segment and schedule the sends. This is a helpful prompt that I just put in here that might help you. Write a pre-appointment email, my voice, teasing a listing appointment in blank neighborhood, no address, no price, curiosity driven, under 100 words. There are ways to get prompts that are really good. I'm going to give you some recommendations as we go through here, some websites that'll give you good prompts. But you can also just go to Claude or ChatGPT and say, hey, I need you to be an expert at giving me a great prompt. Here's what I want to do. What is a prompt I should ask you, Claude, that will give me the best answer? And it will tell you the prompt you should use. So you don't have to come up with a prompt on your own. Let Claude come up with it. Let ChatGPT come up with it. And then there's also a website you can use, and I'll talk about that here on one of these slides. I have it. Okay, the mega open house. This is where one listing becomes the source of the next two or three. Look, a folding table and a sign-in sheet generates nothing. A mega open house generates offers and future listings. The difference is intentional energy, a real invitation, and a plan to convert the neighbors who walk through your door. A mega open house is an event, okay? And I asked some of my clients the other day, because we kind of got lost in translation over the last couple months, who here has actually done a real event around their open house? If I come to your open house, do I walk in and say, okay, this is just like every other open house I've ever been to? Or when I walk in, do I say, wow, this is an event. This is totally different than any other open house I've been to today. Make no mistake about it. When you do an open house, you are auditioning for more business. The neighbors are watching, and when you don't put your best foot forward, you're basically blowing future opportunity. So you want to go all out. You want to promote hard. You want to do stories, flyers, letters, paid ads, signs everywhere. Treat it like a launch, not a Saturday shift. Hot tip. When I tell people about mega open houses, I feel like they hear, oh my gosh, I have to spend all this money on an open house, all this work. I do agree it's going to be work. Anything worth doing is going to be work. But if you're going to give up your time on a weekend with your family or your friends, or just time you sit on the couch eating Doritos, I don't even care. But if you're going to do this, you might as well go all out and make sure you give yourself every opportunity to get some good leads, form some good relationships. But if you don't do it this way, it's not going to happen. So you don't have to spend any money. Go get a lender who is probably loving any business they can get right now and say, hey, look, I am going to do good, really, I shouldn't say good, great open houses, but I want them to be an event. What can we work out? How can you help me? And I'm sure they'll be happy to help you and sponsor your events. So get creative with other vendors, but make it an event. Add something neighborhood appropriate, a taco cart, margaritas, a wine and cheese. I'm not promoting alcohol. I'm just saying we've had people do all kinds of creative stuff. Permission to come. So frame it as a nosy neighbor open house so neighbors feel invited and not awkward, because I want the neighbors to come. I love when people are like, oh my gosh, all the neighbors came. Great. Are you talking to them about their home that they might sell now or later? Do they have any friends that they'd love to pick to be in this open house? I know people that want to move into our neighborhood. Every time you move into a neighborhood, there's always people that you know that want to move in your neighborhood. It's a chance to pick your neighbors. Prep as long as you're open. A 2-hour open house earns 2 hours of setup. So I tell people, they're like, oh my gosh, it's a great open house. I'm going to do it for an hour. I'm like, why would you do an open house in a home that you love for an hour? Do it as long as you're willing to do it. I would do the open house as long as you're willing to do it. Why does it work? A packed house manufactures urgency. Buyers see the crowd and they assume it's all demand. They have no idea why people are there. They're just like, wow, look at all the people. So put it everywhere. Spend the time attracting people to the open house. Half the crowd are neighbors, but the buyers don't know that. The urgency is real either way. That's the point. So if I come to your open house, there's a bunch of people, it could all be the neighbors, but I don't know that, right? And now you're face to face with the exact people who are the future sellers. That's what you want. You're being interviewed. They may list in a week, 3 months, or 3 years. But once you form the relationship, the key is don't not follow up. If you get somebody that you form a relationship with and they say, hey, we're looking in the next year or two, great. It's future business you're securing. So get their contact info, find out as much as you can, and start following up with them, right? Ask great questions. Find out exactly what's important to them. All right. After the neighbors watch how you market a home on their own street, your next listing presentation in that neighborhood is half closed before you walk in. I promise you. A lot of us go into listing presentations. First of all, no one does pre-listing questionnaires, so they don't know they're up against other agents. You all should be doing a pre-listing questionnaire, by the way. If you're not sure what that is, please DM me or text me. I'm all over social under my name, Frank Hereda. But if you are doing a pre-listing questionnaire, you'll know that sometimes people are interviewing other agents. Well, if you don't want them to interview other agents, then you knock it out of the park on the open house. That sets you apart from your competition. Now they're like, I don't need to interview agents. I know this is my agent because no one's doing open houses like them. And if they do open houses like this, I'm sure they're going to do everything else that's great. And that's what you want. Okay, the magic buyer letter. You have a hook, you want to create scarcity, low pressure, and you want proof. So after a strong open house, you want to write the neighbors and use the success as your reason to reach out. Now, the scarcity piece can be anything. In here, it says you received a bunch of offers. That may not be it. It might just be, oh my gosh, we're overwhelmed with the response. We had so many people. That's enough, right? Then if this is your forever home, throw this letter away. That's good because it's kind of like a takeaway. Hey, listen, if you're living in your forever home, no need to read the rest of this letter. If I saw that, I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to keep reading. That's just how we're wired. So you got to make sure that you're not too scared to step on, say what you want to say. Remember, these are just humans, just like you and I. And, you don't want to be pushy. One agent produced 2 listings from just 50 letters. This works. We get people that produce a lot of business from this. So trust me, this works. Use the magic buyer letter. But let's see, I think that's 6 different ways we're trying to get people from just this one listing so far. Here's an example of the buyer letter. Let me see if I can read through this. Yeah, we're still doing good. So, dear, the neighbor's name, we haven't met, but I thought you should know what's happening on your street. This past weekend, we held an open house at blank and had blank groups come through. We're reviewing offers, or we had so many people, and then just leave it at that. I promised the families who came through that I'd check with the neighbors because there's several buyers who would love to live in this neighborhood and didn't get this home. If this is your forever home, throw this letter in the trash. Everyone says this is an incredible community and I don't blame you for staying, but if you've ever thought about making a move, I may already have a buyer for you. Just text me at blank, tell me a little about any updates you've made, and I'll put together a current value for your home. Super simple, guys. And you can do this. Again, is it a lot? Yes. But what we're talking about is a loop. We're trying to create a loop, and we'll talk about this in the future, but you're doing the same things every single time. So it never changes. So hint, hint, you should have what we call an SOP, a standard operating procedure, or that's a fancy term for checklist. So you should have a checklist that says every time you get a listing presentation, you do these things, and it never changes. So once you create this the first time, you fill in a couple blanks and it's ready to go for the next time. Print them off and send them out. Now, do you have to operationalize around it? Yes. That's called systems, processes. But that is how you get more business. And as you do it more and more and more, especially in the same neighborhood, then people start to feel like they see you everywhere, which they kind of are. And they're like, wow, she or he is killing it. That is what we want. That's the point of this. All right. AI tools, again, ChatGPT, Claude, your CRM, Slide Dial, in case you're not sure, or Slide Broadcast is really what you would want to use. That's voicemail drops. Make sure you're always paying attention to what you are allowed to do based on do not call lists. Don't do things that you shouldn't do. But I did put a helpful prompt in here as well for AI to write a magic buyer letter to the neighbors of blank address. We had blank number of groups through and multiple offers, friendly, low pressure, including the throw this letter away line. Change this up, play around with it, but it'll come up and it'll spit it out in like 10 seconds. This is the power of AI. By the way, I might as well drop another hint. You don't have to be an expert in AI. The most successful real estate agents as we move into the future are going to be the ones. It's like saying when the computer first came out, there was the agents who didn't use computers and the ones that did. And the ones that did thrived. It's the same thing here. The ones that don't use AI will probably still get deals, but they will not be able to compete with the ones that don't use AI. So using AI makes you more efficient. You can do more stuff. You can accomplish more deals in a day. That's the point. So make it easy on yourself. Use AI. All right. Now we're at the neighbor follow-up system. This is 3 calls that turn 1 sale into the next listing. This is my favorite script. So the neighbors around your listing are the warmest future sellers, but only if you reach to them 3 times, not once. We call it the announcement promise commitment script. It's a simple sequence that walks a curious neighbor from what's happening on my street to list my home too. Now, before we get started, this is not a, hey, I'm going to call them once and then that's it. This is geared to build trust, okay? The only way you can build trust is by calling them multiple times. You don't ask any questions until the 3rd phone call. Let's go through this. So you have the announcement, which brings awareness, the news, the invite, and the open door. The purpose is to let the neighborhood know that a home is coming and you're the agent behind it. The news is, hi neighbor, we just listed a home nearby, coming to market in about 3 weeks. The invite them to a special neighborhood open house before it's public. The open door, close with value. Want to know what your home is worth? Call me back. So, hi neighbor, this is Frank with XYZ Brokerage. I'm reaching out because we just listed a home right here in your neighborhood. It's coming to market in about 3 weeks and we're going to host a special neighborhood open house that I'd love to invite you to before it goes public. If you have any questions about real estate or you'd just like to know what your home is worth in today's market, give me a call back at blank, talk soon. And you don't even have to put if you'd like to know what your home is worth. You really could just be like, hey, this is Frank. I'm calling to let you know that, the Smith Street home down the street. Yeah, we're listing it. Just want to let you know there's going to be extra activity on the block. If you have any questions or concerns, here's my contact info. Let me know. That's it. And they're probably going to be like, okay, because they're shocked that you haven't asked them a question and that's all you're calling to say. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. That's call number 1. All right. And that is within 48 hours of signing the listing agreement. So it starts that early, guys. It's that early you have to do it. Now, the second one is the promise. Okay. So the goal here is to call within 48 hours of it going under contract. And here is essentially what we're trying to do. You want to position the open house as a can't miss event or the fact that they received an offer. Okay. It's under contract. Hi neighbor, it's Frank again with an update on, you remember that home I called you about? Yeah, on this 15th Street? Yeah. Well, congratulations. You've got new neighbors. It's under contract. They're going to want to know, what did it sell for? And I'm going to say, I'd love to tell you what it sold for, but I can't until it closes. All I can tell you is we got top dollar, multiple offers, whatever you want to use. But I promise I'll call you the day it closes and I will tell you what it closed for. So again, I haven't asked any questions. 2 calls. Now they're hearing my name. Plus you have all the mega open house and all these letters you've sent. So this is during 1 listing. We still haven't gotten off of the fact that we're on 1 listing, guys. And you can use this script too. It's whichever one you want. All right. But you can always throw in, if you'd ever like to talk about your own place, I'm always here. Call me at blank. And this is if you have to leave a message. Okay. So you have the announcement, the promise, no questions we've asked. And now we're on to the 3rd one, which is the commitment. And you're calling at the end when they have the closing on the home. And this is to convert the result into a listing appointment. The payoff, call of the sequence. It's under contract, multiple offers over asking. Let's look at this script. Hi neighbor, great news. It's under contract. I promised you that I would call you and tell you what it sold for, which is a little different than this script. The home sold for blank. And then you ask, what do you think of that price? And you stop talking. That's it. Let them talk now. What do you think of that price? Now, there's 1 of 2 things they're going to say. Oh, it's amazing. That's really low. Whatever. You can come back with one of two questions. We have that in the script. I can send that as well. But essentially, well, Mr. Seller, at what price would you consider selling your property? That would be a potential follow-up plan. Oh, that's too low. Oh, okay. Well, Mr. Seller, at what price would you consider selling your home? And then you're just opening the conversation. Well, I wouldn't sell for anything less than 750. Great. Let's sit down and talk about it. When are you available? That's all we're trying to do is elicit conversations. Remember in the beginning, conversations is the key. All of this is about that. What else is great about what we're going over today? It keeps you in action. There's no way, if you can get a listing, there's no way if you do all this, you're going to get more business, buyers or sellers or both, hopefully. And this is just going to keep going. But this is why I would love at the end of this, when I leave time for Q&A, I'd love, or in the chat, I'd love to see what everybody thinks about compared to what you're doing now. Because when I come across agents, most of the time they're doing none of this. They get a listing, they put it on the market, they hope it sells, they might do a listing video, and that's usually about it. They might do an open house, but they don't do anything for the open house, but they do none of this other stuff. And so now I hope you can see, wow, there's so many things that I could be doing that will generate more business and activity. The money's in the follow-up, and the follow-up is 8 touches, not 1. Most agents quit after the first. I would say it's even more than 8, but at least 8. Okay. And so the money, all the money's in the follow-up. We've said that for so many years. All the money is in the follow-up. By the way, that announcement, promise, commitment script, we had a client set, I think, 100 appointments in 1 year, who was actually a coach from using that script. That script is a great script, I promise you. But you got to follow up. Okay. This is just another AI tool tie-in. Your CRM, I put in your follow-up boss, follow-up plans. Doesn't matter what your CRM is. They're all fine. ChatGPT, Claude, personalize each script to the street, the home, the result. Sly broadcast is really what that should be, not Sly dial, but they're both kind of the same. One's individual, one's group. And then this prompt that I put together for you, personalize your announcement, promise, commitment scripts for the street. The home had blank people come through, keep each under 30 seconds spoken, but you can make your prompt whatever. Just use ChatGPT and Claude, especially Claude, as your personal assistant. You have to share what's going on with it. The more it knows about you, the better it can do for you. So hopefully you've all set up Claude or ChatGPT, and that's the best way to use it. Okay. Show the sweat and multiply. Market the close to win the next listing. Most agents send a just sold, call me postcard and waste the most persuasive moment they'll ever have. The close isn't the end of the marketing. It's the proof that wins the next seller. So you got to show the work, not just the result, guys. You want to show the work. All right. So show the sweat. What do we mean? Don't sell the outcome, sell how you achieved it. Because if I say, oh, I just sold this house or I just listed this house, I'm sure some of you have heard this. We've been saying this for a couple years now. It just looks braggadocious. And it's like, okay, great. You just sold a house. And people are, they look at that and they're like, oh, big deal. You sold a house, you listed a house. Great. What people want to know is the details. So you sell the story, you sell what happened, how everybody came together, right? How you achieved it. A travel agent sells the beaches, not the plane ride. Sell the vacation, not the transport. So walk the campaign, prep, video views, 3D tour, social storm, open house traffic, private tours, offers, like all that stuff. By the time they reach the result, the number barely matters. They've seen your expertise. The goal is just to create the activity. That's all we're trying to do. Okay. So this is this sweat, show the sweat just sold letter. And so here's the behind the scenes story of how, blank street address just sold. The owners trusted us to get it right. So here's what we did and guided them through prep and renovations, produced a professional video that earned blank views, created a 3D floor plan, ran a full social media campaign, featured it as a showcase listing. You welcomed blank people at the open house and had so many private tours. You brought in the number of offers, right? You're proving what you did. You're walking them through all this stuff. And if I'm a seller and I see this card, this postcard, I'm like, wow. So this is why they do what they do, but they just don't do it. They do it because it generates this and this and this and this. And if you read through this, as I'm reading through this to you, what should be going through your mind is, wow, there's no way somebody could do all of this and not generate a certain level of activity that pays off for me, right? So that's the whole goal behind this. This whole thing that we're talking about today is just a loop, just a circle, and each stage is to leverage, milk each stage for everything we can get. And then you want to share the result. This is what we do for every home we represent. That is a statement. Because when I see that, I go, wow. As I read through every single thing on this list, that's a lot of stuff. And now, when people see this, guess what? If somebody comes to hire me for a listing presentation and they saw this before they had me come to their home, guess what's probably not going to happen? I'm not going to have to resell them every week on what I'm doing because their house isn't selling. Hey, what's going on this week? Why isn't our house sold in 2 seconds? We don't have to do that. They've seen this, and you can say, hey, remember that postcard that you hired me off of? Yeah, we're doing all of that. And they can see the activity. You can send them the activity, but this puts everybody's mind at ease before they even hire you. And then you say, curious what a campaign like this would look like for your home? Text me at blank number. Okay. Telling the story, social plus video. Um, you don't have to do video, but I highly recommend you do. Video is going to add something to your marketing that you can't create if you don't do video. And building video builds trust, it's social proof, it shows credibility. And so when you have, whether it's a YouTube channel or you're doing video on social, that really changes things. Facts tell, stories sell. And so a 60-second good news video beats any postcard any day of the week. So I think there's two pieces to this. There's the piece that, hey, I need to do more volume, right? So I need to do more of the things that work. But then there's also the piece where somebody could up their game by saying, okay, I'm going to be a little uncomfortable, a little more vulnerable, and I'm going to enter into the realm of video because people would much rather look at a video. If I send you a text and say anything, it would be much better if I sent it in a video than text. I'm engaging more senses, you're more excited, and it's just better, it's just cooler. So email it to the 200 neighbors and post it on social the week you close, right? So you're telling that story from that letter and you're sending it on social the week you close. And then the narrative, tell the arc, who the sellers were, where they're going, what you did to win. And then film it on your own phone. Done and authentic beats polished and never posted. And this is something that I've seen in social for a while. You know, we switched, I don't know, a year ago, started doing more live videos. And people love our live videos, but it's us, authentic and real. So you can do scripted stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, some of the best, channels have scripted videos, but authentic is what you want. So polished is fine once in a while, but you just with the phone walking the lot or walking the home or whatever is going to be much better. People want to see raw and real, right? They want to know that you're real. And especially in this age of AI, people are excited to see the real you. They're going to crave that authenticity. And so authenticity is going to win in this market. So the multiplier flywheel. So one listing feeds pre-market campaigns, which feed the make a open house, which is stage into stage. The open house feeds the neighbor follow-up calls, which feed new appointments, and then it compounds. The close feeds the show the sweat story, which feeds the next seller's decision, which is the proof loop. Every closed listing reloads the database and starts the flywheel again, and it's self-sustaining. And that is what we are trying to do. From start to finish, you are trying to create a flywheel. And all this does, at every stage, you would create more opportunities to get buyers and sellers. Okay. Now, you can have little moments throughout where you're getting more business. So, for example, I have some clients who love to, when their people, like, let's say they have a buyer and the buyer is going to move into a home, they will go after the transaction and knock on 15 doors around their buyer's home. And what they'll do is they'll knock on the door and they'll say, "Hi, I'm so and so. I represented the buyer across the street that's going to be your neighbor. I wanted to have a gift for them when they moved in their home. If you wouldn't mind answering a few questions, I'd love to hear what your favorite restaurant is, what your favorite place to get your car fixed is, yada, 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 3 or 4 things in the area." Or they bring a card and say, "I'd love for you to put your contact info and put a welcome to the neighborhood comment. And I'm going to leave this for my buyer so they can get in contact with their neighbors." But that gives them an opportunity to go around and knock on multiple people's doors and meet a bunch of people in the neighborhood to get more sellers. And that's when they have the buyer side. So there's so many opportunities to get more business from one transaction. And that is how you all have to look at this. But this won't work if you don't have a system. If you don't have a system and a process, then it doesn't work. So one listing marketed across all 5 moments and followed up for the long haul becomes the source of your next 2 or 3. And that is the multiplier. So let's talk about some AI tool tie-ins. Your CRM, like we talked about, ChatGPT and Claude, Sly Broadcast, Sly Dial, and then Revy is another one. But let's talk about video, the authority beyond the property. One listing filmed once, working for you for years. So a postcard dies in the trash, but a video lives on YouTube. The listing sells in 30 days. The content it produces sells you for the next 3 years. That is why I love YouTube. But listing content is fuel, right? So when you go and you do a listing presentation, the goal should be to do a listing video. And then what your options could be is you could take that listing video. It doesn't have to be super fancy, but you do a listing video and then you put it on your YouTube channel. So now you have a listing video. People love to see listings as part of your YouTube channel. That's not the only content you want to put on there, but if you did have that, people love to watch. You could chop it up then on something like Opus Clips. If you don't know what Opus Clips is, you could take that long form video and chop it up on Opus. And what Opus does, opus.ai, is it will create short reels for you. And it will also put everything together. You don't have to do anything, ready to go. And it will give you a score on the likelihood of that reel going viral. I've used Opus for years, but it creates more clips. And let's talk about something else that our clients are doing. Something else that our clients are doing is they are creating more than one video at the listing. They might do a listing walkthrough video, but then they go and record shorter clips, maybe 4 to 12, that they can hold back and launch throughout the listing. So let's say I go in and I think like they have an amazing fireplace and an amazing kitchen, a vaulted ceiling. All those are quick 30-second videos or a minute to a minute and a half videos. Hey guys, you're not going to believe this. I'm here in this listing and oh my gosh, take a look at the vaulted ceilings here. They're 100% cedar. They're painted white. They're 10 foot tall. They're whatever, right? And you could talk about that. And let's say you've had this listing for 2 months. Well, now that's another reason because you held back that video. You can throw that video out there now. So the goal is to have content for weeks or months. So the more video you shoot in small batches, you can hold back and send them out later. So you have content to go the distance if the average days on market climbs. But one property produces 4 videos at a minimum: the walkthrough, the neighborhood tour, the market update, and the behind the scenes prep story. The walkthrough sells the house, the other 3 sell the agent. So you want to fill the neighborhood tour the same day as the listing shoot. And all of this, you want to have a call to action, and it might be thinking about your home's value, reach out. That's one I put on here, but many different ways to do a call to action. YouTube is great because it's evergreen. I love YouTube. Once you do this, somebody might see that video in a year, 2, 3 years and call you off that video. It gives you credibility. It's evergreen. It's always out there. Google owns YouTube. It's always searchable. It's a great option. It helps your Google rankings. There's a million reasons to do YouTube. But buyers don't search your name. They search neighborhood homes and living in blank. So that would be something to think about when you create your YouTube channel. We're not talking in depth about that today. Love to do it. But a seller who's watched 20 minutes of your videos walks into the listing appointment pre-sold. And that's what's great. And I always tell people, look, I think Tom said it once. He's like, when you have 20 people watch a video, that is like basically a classroom full of people. When you have more than that, it could be an auditorium or a stadium, depending on how many you have that are watching it. So YouTube really helps you build authority. And when you walk in with people that watch your YouTube channel, you can show that with your clients. Live streaming is another one. I think we talked a little bit about that already, but that is also another option. Live stream is great. 30-second clips, long form. You can break them down. They can go quite the distance. But promoting a listing makes the neighborhood notice the house. So you want to position, make them remember the agent. When they think about selling, they don't, call that, they basically call the narrator their market, and that's what you want to be. These are some AI tools that I put on here. If you wanted to do social media videos, but you don't want to be in it, you can create an avatar of yourself on HeyGen. I actually have some of those that are out on my social. I don't do a lot of them. Mostly it's all authentic, but on my social channels, I'll do it, not YouTube. 11 Labs does voiceovers. Opus Clips and Descript are great things to do to chop long form into short or edit videos. And then I also put in here helpful prompt for a 90-second neighborhood tour script. So there's lots of tools that you can use. Execution starts now, guys. None of this works if it lives in your head. The multiplier is a checklist, not a talent. You need to build the blueprint once, automate the drip, and run the same 5 movements on every listing, whether you have 1 or 10 in escrow. Okay, so this is a checklist that's in here for you. It's everything we talked about that'll go through it. And then you want to let AI do the heavy lifting. So it talks about your voice, training your AI voice, edit, don't outsource the judgment. Your brain. There's no substitute for your brain yet with AI. And you just want to make sure you make good decisions. And then I have these listed again with Zapier and all the others. The rest of the list. This is what I want you to do. Pick one thing to run on your very next listing. Your pre-appointment email, the neighborhood letter, the mega open house, the magic buyer letter, something. The announcement promise commitment script. That's what I want you guys to do for your next listing. Just take one, but work on getting the whole list done. All right. This is the QR code for everything we talked about today. I promised a couple minutes for Q&A. If that is something that we could do, I would be glad to do some Q&A, but this is the QR code. So I'll leave it up for a second. You guys can scan this QR code. It has the whole presentation there. You can have the whole thing, and I hope that it helps you. Are there any questions about anything I went over or any more clarification on anything I talked about? I want to make sure we had a little bit of extra time so I could answer some questions for all of you. We have a bunch of shy people today. Is that the deal? No questions. Okay, so let's just say it could be questions about this presentations, or it could be questions about anything real estate related. Anything I could answer for you that you're dealing with that I can help with, but especially on this listing presentation slide. I'll answer any of it.
You guys are welcome to unmute yourselves or drop a question in the chat.
Yeah, feel free to ask. I won't bite, I promise. And if you don't want to ask live, you can put it in the chat if you want. I'll be glad to take a look at the chat if you have a question, and if you put it in there, I'll answer it for you. Hopefully this presentation helps. I hope that this gave you at least one thing you're not doing that you can now start to do. There's got to be awesome. Yes. And look, guys, if there's anything I can do for you after this, you can find me. You can send me a DM. I'll even give you my cell phone. But anything you need, you guys can contact me and I'll answer any questions if you didn't feel comfortable asking it right here. But this is what you need to do if you want to keep your business going. Don't fight for business, then get it, and then do nothing except deal with that deal. And then you go down that roller coaster effect. That's what everybody does. You have to do this every single time and not stop. It takes 90 days to build momentum. And then it takes 3 or 4 more 90-day cycles to have a quantum leap in your business, which essentially means you need to do a year's worth of work and steady to have a quantum leap in your business. So if you have questions about that, reach out. Any questions, anything, nothing's off the table. Are you sure you have no questions about this presentation or anything else? Did everybody scan it and everybody got the slide deck? All right. Absolutely, Tina. Thank you. And Grace, thank you as well. Absolutely. I hope this helped all of you. Um, all right. Well, then we're good. Unless there's something else I need to talk about or answer. Well, I wish you guys all the best this year. If you have any questions, reach out. Otherwise, take this, use it, make it your own, and go get them because this is the time to do it. Everybody else is taking their foot off the gas. So make sure you put yours on the gas.
Thank you so much, Frank. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. If there's anything else you need, I can also email you the slide deck. If anybody didn't get it from the QR code, it's not a problem.
Perfect. We appreciate it. Thank you, champions, for joining. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Go get them.